And welcome back to Who Would Win. We are getting close to the end of the Who Would Win. Again, I'm probably going to bump the what if to tomorrow. Just things get ahead of me. But yeah, don't worry. The next part of the Naruto one's coming out. But we are on nearing the end of the monthly base Who Would Win. And I think, by the way, after I'm done with this one, because I got one more, it's Obito, obviously, after this. I might just take a break from the monthly Who Would Win for a month. Just so I can get to other ones and get through a bunch of more suggestions. You good baby, good puppy. But we are on Pein, the leader of the Akatsuki, versus the Espada. Now I'm going to admit right now, it's time for the Akatsuki to get some revenge. By the by, really quick, because I've had people, when I did what if Pein killed Hinata, or I can't remember, yeah, it was what if Pein killed Hinata, people get onto my case for the spelling of Pein, P-E-I-N, and saying it's Pain, P-A-I-N. And let's be 100% clear. Whoop, I think I did the wrong one there. There we go. We are both right. I am pointing this out. Look. See, our following argument says, Nagato adopt the alias of Pein. Now, you see that? See that? See right there? That? P-E-I-N? Ah! Sorry, that bothered the hell out of me when people say, you spelled it wrong. No, I didn't. It's his name. It's not the word. You can spell it as you spell the word pain, but it can also be spelled P-E-I-N. So just so we're getting that clear right there. And yes, by the way, I do have Pein's information up here right now, so I'll be able to just go through it without too much difficulty. But anyway, he is the de facto leader, more or less, of the Akatsuki. I mean, obviously we know Obito is actually pulling the strings, but in terms of the face leader of the Akatsuki, and let's be honest, arguably he was probably stronger than Obito, but Obito's abilities were unique enough that he could avoid, he could avoid a lot and probably beat him. He was still amazingly powerful. Now, having the Rinnegan implanted on gave him the power of the sixth path, which gave him access to all 5 chakra natures, allowing him to, why don't we just get this up right now? Allowing him to wield both eyes without drawbacks. Though he was not the eye's original owner, being Uzumaki allowed him to wield them without drawbacks. His skill is great enough to earn recognition from the third 6 paths. As the third 6 paths. Greatest advantage of the Rinnegan is that it gave Nagato access to all 6 path techniques. The gravitational powers of the Deva path, which is the I always loved that. Shinra Tensei! Buto, I was never a big fan of Buto Tensei, basically just attracting. But Chibaku Tensei. So yeah, pulling gravitational force, which with upping the power could wipe out an entire village, like it did with the leaf. Chibaku Tensei basically summoned like a well of gravity that basically created like moons, more or less, or meteors that could seal things up in them. The menagerie of summoning is available because of the animal path. The limitless absorptive potential of the Preta path, the fat one, which could absorb all the chakra. The control over souls with the human path. The different options of mechanisms of the Azura path. Access to the King of Hell with the Naka path. And because of the he also has access to. He's technically the 7th path, which allows him to actually resurrect individuals using the Hell path, or King of Hell. The Rinnegan also allows them to see chakra, not quite in the same way Byakugan's perception, can see the chakra points and stuff, but it can still see chakra paths. 6 paths of Pain. Again, he was able to split these individuals with the outer path, which is what he was. He could form what we call the 6 path Pain by embedding black chakra receivers throughout the bodies of the 6 corpses arranged to resemble body piercings. He was able to control them remotely through their own will. They all have a shared line of sight, so anything the one sees, the others see. Naruto is extremely powerful as Pain. And he has many ninjutsu under his belt. He can master any ninjutsu was mastered every technique he was ever taught. Basic nature transformation and yang release constitutes extremely rare even for adults, let alone 10 years old. Many miscellaneous techniques, such as allowing individuals to meet in astral forms, like holograms almost. One of the more noteworthy exceptions was the Rain Tiger at Will technique, which allowed him to use the rainfall to monitor everyone in in the Rain Village, which was an interesting technique. I forgot that he was doing that. So yeah, he is by far. And by the way, just because you beat like technically all 6 paths of Pein doesn't mean you beat him. You have to go to the 7th outer path. So we've been doing with this series at this point. You should know who the Espada are and what they are capable of doing. So I mean, let me get that. There we go. I just wanted to fix that up a bit so we can get Yami there. So let's go down the list again. Again, starting with 9, because 10th Espada is actually the strongest, as we know. We're starting with 9, with Anyero. I can't remember his last name, but Anyero, the 9th Espada, with his ability, or sword, Glessoneria, which basically consumed hollows and gave him their abilities. Sorry, I've got just some letters. Not like the actual letters, but the envelopes. Well, now we should know that every Espada has the Sonido ability, and therefore, see, there's no actual measurements for how fast Sonido is or flashed up, but it's pretty widely considered. And I'll admit, I'm not a huge fan of Seth. I'll go to him because he does do some decent research, but I'm just not a big fan of Seth the Programmer. But he's done videos on this where, yeah, it's pretty much, you can say that both Sonido and Flashed Up are lightspeed techniques. More or less. At least for the higher levels of Espada, it definitely is. And the Espada number 7, who claims to be the fastest. Anyero, so Anyero definitely has that. From a speed perspective, he could definitely, I think all the Espada could outspeed Pein and Nagato as Pein. I'm just going to call him Pein for the rest of the video. Could outspeed Pein in the 6 paths, but you have to factor in both traveling speed, which is what the Flash Step and Sonido are, and reaction speed, which is where I can move as fast as I want, but if I'm moving and I can't react in time for something, my reaction speed's slower than my actual traveling speed. But I might move and I'm really not that fast runner, but my reflexes are pretty quick. So your reaction speed is always faster than your traveling speed too, because it's a impulsive action. It's an automatic action. That's what it is. So with Anyero, he doesn't. I mean, all the Espada also know the Gran Ratio, which is where they mix their own blood with Sero to power it up even further. I don't think Anyero could take on. Anyero would get his ass handed to him by Pein. He would try to. Even a Sero. Here's the thing. Here's where Pein shines above all the other really Akatsuki really in these fights, is that even a Sero would wipe out the majority of the other fighters. Just they have other Akatsuki. They just have other abilities that allow them to take on the Espada in different ways. Pein can actually stop Seros with Shinra Tensei. Now, granted, the higher up we get with the Espada, the bigger the power of the Sero, the more harder it would be to do that. But he can do it. And he can obliterate a village, which is the size basically of a city. I mean, it's a village, but we've seen the size of the least. It is city size. And he obliterated nearly all of it. Like, there was like an outer rim of like buildings left. But he obliterated a near city-size area and just leveled it. I would have to believe that at least through the first half of the Espada, the lower half of the group, or the weaker half of the group, that yeah, he should be able to block that. So, and then taking the fact that yeah, all he's got is just the abilities of hollows he's consumed. Yeah. Nagato would probably, and then you factor in like the Predapath who can absorb chakra, and chakra is made up of physical and spiritual energy, which all this reishi is spiritual energy. So, and it's logical to assume that Pein could absorb reishi, at least on some level. Maybe not in the same effect as chakra. Maybe he might have more difficulty with just pure reishi or spirit energy, but he could still do it because it makes up chakra. So you take that into consideration, take out the gravitational powers of the Deva Path, the Azura's Path, mechanical, like just pure on onslaught, the summonings, yeah, Anyero would be screwed. Stylopero, the pink-haired dude right up here, he'd be a bit trickier, admittedly, because his abilities are weird. He's based off, actually, his release is based off a fluke worm. He can release a liquid that when it touches you, it makes a copy of you. But that really doesn't do much. Because technically speaking, while each of the paths are using its own separate ability, that ability belongs to Nagato ultimately. So I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird thing. It's a weird guy. But yes, I think it would still work technically. But ultimately, any ability they throw back at Pein, he's like, okay, Shinra Tensei. He could probably even just avoid the goo just with Shinra Tensei. That Shinra Tensei is a hacked ability. And then even if he tries to absorb some of the bodies, it doesn't matter. And then make the voodoo doll that if he cracks it open, you see the organs, you break it, and those get broken. It really doesn't work in this case because they're all corpses. And they don't feel pain. Granted, it was a filler arc, but or it was a filler episode or filler fight. But when Ibiki tried to use a pain-inducing jutsu on one of the paths, I think it was the animal path. I might be wrong on that, but I think it was. It didn't work because the pains themselves, the paths don't feel pain because they're corpses. So, ooh, sorry, I just had to, adjust myself. Honestly, it wouldn't do a damn thing, which means that Nagato could easily, or Pein could easily just seal him with Chibaku Tensei, absorb his energy, take out his soul. That's another thing you got to factor in the King of Hell, the soul taking one, so he can take his soul out. Sawaporo's dead. Zomari would be a difficult one. And Zomari is the guy who's right next to Sawaporo here, is the black gentleman there with the like this bone, basically mohawk. He looks kind of like a witch doctor. The idea of it is kind of a witch, at least in style, and the name of his Zanpakuto, can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's kind of based off a witch doctor. But he turns into this pumpkin that when he with like 52 different eyes, and when they open, they imprint like a stamp, a mark on you, and he can control anything that has that mark on it. If he hits you in the head, they can control you completely. But even in base form, I think he'd be giving the Peins a lot of trouble because he's arguably the fastest one. And that is due to the fact that, he's not the fastest due to the fact he's the fastest one according to him, according by his own recognition. And like Nirotara had the strongest hero among all the Espada. Now, whether or not that's actually true, who knows? It probably is. Because the Espada are ranked more because of their spiritual energy more than anything else. In terms of their actual strength and power. So they may have their own, they all have their own specialties. So Larry Barrow is able to move so fast that he's able to create like 5 different after images of himself, which frankly, he could blitz the paths. He doesn't have to do anything like and the Preta path that absorbs energy, chakra, it's kind of in a bad way when it comes to melee fights. The animal path would give him problems because none of the animals he could hit, especially that dog that just kept regenerating no matter what. If he kept hitting that with his blade, he'd screw himself over, and it's very possible he would do that. Then you factor in Nagato just keeping him at bay with gravity, the Devon path keeping him at bay, the Zero path, using mechanisms to just, keep him at bay with power and stuff like that. Even if he transforms, or releases his Zanpakuto, he could control a path, but in theory, I believe Nagato could just shut off control to the paths anytime he wants. So now, like, he loses the power of the Rinnegan and all that. That's never fully stated he could do that, but I have to believe he could. And even if he's controlling a certain path, he has no idea how the abilities work. So there's that, and there you go with that as well. And then he may possibly be controlling the animal paths, but again, Chibaku Tensei, you can just freaking seal him up into a little meteor or asteroid moon thing. So there you go. So Zomari is probably screwed in the fight. Going to Grimmjow. I don't think Grimmjow could win, honestly. I mean, he's a very melee style fighter, which would be a problem for something like the Preta path, the Naraka path, I believe, which is the one that summons the King of Hell. Excuse me. The one that the soul, like any of the non-real combative ones would have trouble with Grimmjow. Again, it would come down to Pein himself, the Deva path, probably. Whether or not he could bring down Grimmjow, that's a good question. I would think yes, but again, we never truly saw the full extent of what all the paths were capable of doing. We know that Nagato, using his full power as the Deva path, was able to level a city. we know, while we don't know Grimmjow's full like destructive potential, we know that he was able to just jettison out and release from spikes like these darts from his elbow that destroyed a humongous pillar, like a skyscraper-sized pillar with ease. In that the fight between him and Ichigo was literally affecting the spatial, temporal space in that area. Hollywood actually noted that. So Grimmjow's a tough one. And I think it comes down to the fact that he is just so. He's a panther. He is vicious. He is ferocious. But I will still give the edge, especially if again he can get a hold of Grimmjow and maybe steal his soul. He could possibly do that. So I will lean towards Pein, but it's only because Pein's got a lot of options on his side, and he's got a few things that could really screw over Grimmjow. Ulquiorra. Now, Ulquiorra is a very intellectual fighter. He's also very arrogant, because he doesn't believe in anything, no matter what, and he just can't understand these concepts. He thinks his conceptual concept of existence is the way. So I will say that Ulquiorra is definitely someone who would push Pein, and he's probably one of the only ones who could actually beat him because of his secondary release. He literally has the power to nuke. He literally has the power of a nuke in a lance when he goes into his final form. It moves so fast that you can't process what you just saw. Even if, and here's the Ichigo was able to see him coming straight at him, and he was just looking at him, and all of a sudden his hand just showed there, and Ulquiorra just grabbed him. So I can't say, Ulquiorra is the guy in the middle up top, by the way, in case you're wondering. Grimmjow, pretty famous, but he's the blue hair guy right below him. So I can't give Nagato the win in this. I can't give Pein the win in this one because pure destructive power, I think Ulquiorra beats him. Pure speed, he beats him. Regenerative capability, he beats them. And pure energy-wise, he beats him as well. I mean, Nagato could definitely try to, maybe seal up on Chibaku Tensei, but the sheer speed alone would just be able to counteract that. So Ulquiorra, I do think wins that fight. Pein loses that fight. Then we get to the top four. Tia Halibal, the blonde in the corner there. Tia loses because yes, in base she can definitely use, she can still use Saros and all that. That's fine, but we've established that the Pritapath and Devapath together could probably counteract those. All she has is water, and he can very easily counter water. That's her abilities, frankly, just don't really compare to his. So I would definitely say that, yeah, in that case, she loses that fight. Barigon, if you've been following me on this series for any amount of time, you know what the answer to this is. Barigon beats the crap out of Pein. Here's the thing. Pein has many abilities. Barigon only has a couple. But Barigon's couple really override Pein's many. Even in base form, Barigon has a time dilation field that even when you're moving at super high speed, you suddenly slow down because time is literally slowing down around you. So no matter what technique or which path is trying to grab, be it the soul sealing one of the... Now let me get those names back up there because I always forget that. Be it the soul, the Prita, Deva, summoning, the control over souls, the human path. So even if the human path tries to grab his soul, just going to slow down. And then he can age you so fast, age anything he touches to the point where it crumbles. Like, he could just break down every part of his body. And if that's not enough, then he goes into his Resurrection, which is basically the Grim Reaper, and he has a miasma effect that basically decays anything it touches, no matter what it is. So all the paths are just done, because even the Pretapath trying to absorb the Respira, as it's called, would just dissolve. Pein could try to, grab, it should be Pein. Devapath could try to push it away with Shima Tensei, but quite frankly, I mean, it's one of the few things that he couldn't age. But, we know that Barigon can move at a speed that can catch up to Soifon, who's arguably the fastest, if not one of the fastest captains. And so even if he pushes it back, it's just going to come right back at him and just dissolve him. Even the replicating, regenerating Hound would fall to Bardagon. It would just dissolve, rot, and decay. Which then leaves, the final path, and there's nothing Nagato at that point could do. So ultimately, yeah, he would lose that fight. So then we get into Stark, the number 1 Espada, the guy who just looks lazy here. His release, which is a combination of 2 Espada, or 2 Arrancars becoming 1. He basically takes on the form of a gunslinger. Excuse me. Where it allows him to fire rapid fire Seros, and I mean like a cascade of these things. It would definitely be overwhelming for the Paths to have that much firepower coming at them at once. The Praetor Path can probably only absorb so much at any one time, even though it may be a near limitless amount. You can be overwhelmed. Like, he has to focus on one thing. Although I'm imagining from the way they show it off, it seems to be like a sphere, that any chakra that gets in the sphere is absorbed. So maybe that's the way that works. But excuse me. If that's the way that works, then yes, in theory, the Praetor Path could absorb as much of it can, but the other paths could not, so they could be in a world of hurt. Yes, he could try Chibaku Tensei, but really, the problem with Chibaku Tensei on a lot of these guys is that one big Sero and they're out. So take that for what it's worth. And then Stark can literally just, if the Praetor Path is giving him trouble, he can split his soul, and those wolves you've seen him make are just fragments of his soul that when they bite you, they explode. They explode large and hard and fast. So I don't think that's a soul. That's a fragment of a soul. That's not chakra. That's not even reishi. That's a soul. So that's something the Praetor Path couldn't avoid. Then you factor in Animal Path and Azura Path. They could do the best they can, but again, just an overwhelming cascade of Seros. There's not much they can do against that. They only have the reflexes of Ninja. Their reflexes are not light speed level, as far as we can tell. Whereas Stark can move and has the reflexes of someone who is at near light speed, if not light speed. Then we factor in finally Devapath. I think he would be eventually overwhelmed by Stark. So I think Stark does pull the win. So there's 3 wins to the 3 wins for the Espada, 6 for the Akatsuki Pein. We finally move on to Yami, and I'll say this. Yami's probably the easiest one. Well, not the easiest one, but in terms of the Espada, in terms of the main crew, even though he's the strongest one technically, he's a freaking oaf. He's pure power and rage, but yeah, he would probably get his ass kicked simply due to the fact that there's so many other paths. Like the human path can only just grab him, touch him, and steal his soul. Now, yes, he could fight him for it, but yeah, he could. I don't know if he's got the willpower or the control over his soul to really stop that. So, and then you factor in the Praetor Path just sucking energy off of him. Devapath just sealing him up. And so, yeah, I actually think that despite the fact he is the Zero Espada, his giant kaiju in his relief swarm, that he is, quite frankly, not that hard to beat in terms of Pein versus the Akatsuki. So, ultimately, yes. That's my thoughts on this. 7 wins out of 10 for the Akatsuki. This one, they definitely got a nice big increase on that one. But we got one more Akatsuki member left, and that is Obito. That is Toby. So we will do that at the beginning of next week. Till then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe. As always, if you want to review something, put in the comments below. Let me know. I'll do it at some point. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one, folks.